Hey, good morning. How y'all doing? It is Red Beard, and it is a damn fine day to talk about a book. Today we're here for a book review, and it's a little bit different than most of the books I do. It is not horror. It is a book that I came across. Um, Look, I've got a lot of reading aspirations. I read a lot of horror. Horror is my cup of tea. I don't think I'm not one of these people that says you have to read the important books. You have to read, but I do occasionally slip over to that side of things for myself. I picked this book up. I want to say I was looking for important books or best books of like the last of this century. How about that? From 2000 on. And I found a list where this book was like at the top. And so because of that, I was like, oh shit, it's the best book in the last 24 years. I was like, I bought it and I was going to read it. And then I don't know, I got it. It's 450 pages and the text isn't super big and whatnot. Anyway, I did not start it, and it sat on the shelf for probably a year. And so I got back into reading in October, and I've read, let's just say for sake of argument, 15 books. You know, most of them horror. Um, and I got on this Infinite Jest kick. I've talked about it. I want to read Infinite Jest. I bought Infinite Jest. I haven't cracked it yet. Well, maybe I've cracked it, but I haven't really started it yet. And I was like, I needed to read a more difficult book to prepare me for that. I also need a palate cleanser from my steady diet of horror. I believe, if it's all you read, if everything is shocking, you lose the ability to be shocked, right? If everything's horrific, nothing's horrific, that type of thing. So I wanted a bit of a palate cleanser, and I chose to read White Teeth by Zadie Smith. Now, um, one great thing about it is it got me reading like this again. I haven't been using my sticky notes and marking things and you know kind of falling in love with bits of, I call them tidbits, with beautiful tidbits within the text, like beautiful things outside the story, almost poetic type shorts that kind of stand alone and can be like, oh, this that is what a beautiful way of putting that, or whatever. So I kind of got back into that a little bit with this book. It's not an easy read. It took me probably a little bit more than a week, 7 8 days to read this book. It's 450 pages. Now, granted, it wasn't the only thing I was doing. I mean, but it was other than reading a couple short stories here and there, it was the only thing I was reading. I've always got an audio going too, but um, I really liked it. Now the hard part is telling you why I liked it. I mean, there are plenty of videos out here on why this out on YouTube on why this book is good. That'll be far better at explaining it than I will. But for me, it's like this beautiful story about nothing. A beautiful story about um, mediocrity, normalcy. It's almost like if you imagine like your worst idea of, we're going into Thanksgiving this week, right? Americans are going into Thanksgiving this week, and this is not an American book. I'll get to that in a second, but imagine your worst family holiday where everything is going wrong. You've got the drunk uncle and the overbearing mom and the kids running around getting into all kinds of shit, smoking weed in the bathroom, whatever. Imagine that. Imagine the worst family get together, and now let's do that for 20 some odd years. And for me, that's kind of what this book was. It's but there's a lot of other things. There's the I mean, again, it's over 20 years, so we kind of start with parents, um, and then we spend kind of the rest of the book on the children, and then it all wraps up in this beautiful circular way where like everyone shows up at this event, and it is a culmination of the clusterfuck, for lack of a better way of putting it. So I mean, it was it, middle of the road on page turnability for me. Like, I like the book, and I can see the beautiful prose in it, and I can see why it's important. But there were nights where I was like, "Mm, I don't want to read this tonight." Yeah, I mean, there were nights like that. So just honesty, you know. But again, I've got it under my belt now. I got it in my toolbox. Call it my toolbox. I want to talk about books, and I want to bring up other books and whatever. And I'm very, very happy about that. I would say probably for me, like, I'm going to say 4 stars. I mean, it's not. Um, I mean, it's not my favorite book that I've read this year. It's not my least favorite by far. 4 stars, probably more for what it does and what I can recognize that it does than just general, oh wow, that was fun, more 4 stars for that type reason. But anyway, let's get a little bit of synopsis. That's another thing. Look, I've talked 6 minutes and haven't even gotten into the review yet. Haven't even really gotten into what I thought about the book. Now, there's not really a synopsis on the back of this book, so I'm going to read what the back of this book says, and then we'll go into, I guess, what I thought about it. Another thing is, there's I told you, and maybe I didn't tell you, the book's broken up into 4 parts, and and there's chapters within those parts. I don't want you to think there's no like breaks, but it's 4 parts, and there is a 4-part show, Sweet Tooth. Why did I say Sweet Tooth? Sweet Tooth's a comic series. Though. White Teeth. I can only find it on YouTube. Like, all 4 episodes are available on YouTube. It's supposed to be available on Amazon Prime, but for whatever reason, maybe it only is in the UK. I'm not sure. It's not available for me, so I watched it on YouTube, all 4 episodes over the weekend to kind of, I guess, refresh myself on all the things that happened in this 450-page book. It's pretty good, and this book came out in 2000, which I don't think I knew it was that far back. I also did, when I saw that there was a show, kind of figured the show was a little bit more modern. I think the show came out roughly 2004. It's got a very, very young James McAvoy in it. You'll also recognize probably a lot of the other people that are in there as well. But anyway, cool, cool show. But yeah, it's weird. It's a big book about life, a big book about normal, the normal, but bizarre and absurd bullshit that happens in life. But anyway, so let's read this back of the book here. One of the most talked about fictional debuts of recent years. That's another thing. It's a first novel. For a first novel, it's pretty ridiculous. One of the most talked about fictional debuts of recent years, White Teeth, is a funny, generous, big-hearted novel adored by critics and readers alike, dealing with, among many other things, friendship, love, war, 3 cultures, and 3 families over 3 generations, and the tricky way the past has of coming back and biting you on the ankle. I don't know about the ankle, but it is a life affirming, riotous, must read book. Yeah. So we open up with Archie Jones. Archie Jones is somewhat our main character. I mean, again, it becomes more about the kids, but Archie is um, a middle aged man, let's say late 40s, for sake of argument. Again, I'm not really fresh on the exact points, but and we open up on him. His wife has left him. We just kind of get the idea that he's kind of there's one point in the show, at least, and maybe the book too, but the show refers to him as a non-entity. He's just this guy, man, that goes to his job every day, does his job, but he doesn't really do anything great. And can't even make a decision, flips a coin for everything. For every decision, he flips a coin, and he's just a guy, and he's going to kill himself. He's got the vacuum hose, and he has pulled off to what he thinks is a abandoned enough street. Then he flips the coin because he wants to make sure that he wants to go through with this. Flips the coin, hooks the hose up, and sets to, kill himself with carbon monoxide poisoning or whatever. And he's stopped, by someone. Someone comes and comes to him. He's actually parked outside of, um, again, on the exactness, but, I'm not even going to go into that. He is stopped. And so he wakes up from, being passed out or near passed out and has this new lease on life. This new, okay, I've got another chance to live, and I'm actually happy about this. I want to live now. And this is New Year's Eve. I want to say 1974 again for sake of argument, but uh, so he gets in his car, drives away, and comes across this end of the world party sign out front, end of the world party, and he goes in and he meets again. He's oldish, right? I mean, my age, oldish, and meets a 19-year-old Jamaican girl named Clara. And she comes down the stairs. He's the most beautiful thing she's ever seen. She has no front teeth, um, due to an accident, not due to lack of dental hygiene. That's important. That's an important fact. And he just kind of falls in love with her. And she, again, Jamaican of Jamaican descent, she is a Jehovah's Witness. Her mother is a very, very overbearing Jehovah's Witness, and they believe the end of the world is at midnight. At the start of 1975, it's the end of the damn world. And so she is also kind of like getting a new life because the end of the world doesn't happen at the cusp of 1975, and they, I don't know if you call it love. I guess you call it love. It's quick love. They fall in love and they get married. So we meet Archie's friend, Samad Iqbal. We know that they have history in the war, and that history in the war kind of comes down to one event. And I'm not going to give you everything here, but that one event is that um, they're in a tank, right? And they're kind of, um, again, non-entities in the war. The war is ending. They haven't really done anything. They haven't killed anybody. They haven't, really seen any action, and they come across this guy who is hiding out, and he is supposedly this Nazi, um, scientist, this bad Nazi scientist, and they kind of flip a coin on who has to kill him because one of them is going to take this guy out. And of course, Archie loses. Takes him off in the woods. He flips the coin again, and something happens that this guy escapes. Well, he lets Samad Iqbal, his friend, believe that he did the deed. And like their entire relationship, their entire friendship is built on this one event that did not happen the way Samad thinks it happened. So anyway, they're just again dudes, and Samad and his wife. He is an arranged marriage. She like the marriage was arranged like in 1945 roughly, and she wasn't even born until 1955 roughly, so that you get the idea there that a lot of age difference in their marriage as well. Samad and Alsana, his wife, have twin boys, Majid and Milat, and Clara and Archie have a child, Erie, and those three are like friends throughout life, and we kind of get into all that stuff. There's um it's just this big melting pot of, again, um culture and race, and the whole thing takes place in the UK. So racism from another point of view, racism that I haven't seen, as an American really, but culture and race, and just all these different things just come together in this one religion, a lot of different religions. So, um, quickly, because I'm not going to talk about this book for forever, which I probably could, but we watch these kids grow up, and Erie, and Milat. Majid gets sent back to Bangladesh. His father Samad thinks that he needs to send him back, needs to get him away from the UK, needs to get him away from all these bad Western influences and get him back there. And in doing so, he goes back to Bangladesh, and instead of getting all the culture and religion, Muslim religion that his father wants him to, he becomes an atheist and clings to Western principles and comes back. And so he's over there, Majid. Milat and Erie get in trouble at school with another kid named Josh for some marijuana usage, and they are assigned to go to Josh's house like every day to study. Josh's dad is a famous scientist. His mother is a famous author, and they spend time over there, and in doing so, it winds up to this place where um, they all go different ways. Majid comes back and is working with the scientist who has this idea of this future mouse, this mouse that he's using this to cure disease in humans, but he's got this mouse that will live exactly 7 years, and it will live and get sick and show cancerous tumors and blah 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 blah. Anyway, so it all comes to a head at this event for Future Mouse, where Majid is working with um, this scientist. Milat has left his Western um, American hip hop blonde girl loving ways and become a radical extremist um, Muslim kind of. Um, Erie is also kind of working with the scientist family, and then Josh, the scientist's actual son, has linked up with this group Fate, which is an animal rights organization, and so at this event, everything comes to a head with the animal rights people, the extremist Muslims people, the Jehovah's Witnesses, who all are protesting this mouse thing for different reasons, and everyone shows up, and it's this culmination, and in that we get a little bit of Archie finally not having time to flip a coin and make a decision. Now, the book tells that part much different than the show, and that's important to know. But I don't think I have to go into it anyway. It's wild. Like I said, it's this melting pot of religion and race and generations and age groups and had this conversation with my wife, like like how you try to tell your parents how to, well, for me anyway, like how to use, let's just say, Netflix or something for sake of argument, and they struggle with, and we got to talking about how the gap between us, because I try to not use a shit ton of technology as I talk to you on a computer on an application that shows videos, but I try I mean, I try to stay away from TikTok and a lot of the what I call time wasters, but there's going to be this bigger gap, I believe, between myself and my children because of that. I mean, we talk about generation gaps. Anyway, got off topic there, but yeah, melting pot of religion and race and all these different things coming together, and science and Western versus Eastern principles, and there's a lot of sex, not a lot of sex, but there's a lot of love and affairs. I mean, these men again have very young wives and and this and that, but it just really comes down to, like I said, for me, this 25-year picture of a crazy family get together. Yeah. So this is White Teeth, Zadie Smith. I dug it. Probably 4 stars. She's got 3 or 4 other books out there. Probably get to them eventually. But yeah, this has been Well Red Beard. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're enjoying all your books, all of them, as much as I am. If not, you're reading the wrong damn books.